Alongside with booze, the technology actually has changed a lot of the industry today. So you were telling us about the craftsmanship. How is it affecting the industry as you see it today? Technology.
At the very first and foremost, I think back then when they would look at how to analyze if a media strategy works, they had gross rating points, right? Back in the day, which you would do by hand. Not only was that time consuming to put together for them, from what I've heard, I haven't experienced it, but nowadays everything's so instant. If you launch an online campaign for a client, we can track within a day whether it worked or not. We can pull the campaign within a week. Back then, the strategy was always say, let's look at it 6 months out. We won't really be able to see if we made an impression or not. So I think the instant, the mobile marketing, anything technology, pre-roll video, and Jason, who runs an interactive company, could probably embellish on that. But the truth is, we're living in an instant world and we're getting instant results. Much more different than the golden age of advertising.
Well, one of the things that, to your point, this touches really close to what we do as an agency. And technology has shifted advertising, a fundamental shift. We're in the engagement era. Before you had your mediums of television, radio, and print, and those were very passive environments. We dictated to the end user what they saw, what they read, and what they listened to. We're in an engagement era where the consumers are basically telling the brands whether your advertising campaign is going to work. We can kill an entire campaign in 140 characters or less. This is the world that we live in today. It's wired, it's kinetic. Advertising's a mad industry, and I use the term that the inmates are running the asylum. So it's a very connected world through these mobile technologies, and that's something that didn't really exist 20 years ago, much less going all the way back to the 60s.
That's actually very profound what Jason just said, because it's a total paradigm shift. It used to be the work we did was interruptive. We would do work, we would interrupt TV shows, we would interrupt magazines, and if we did our job properly, people would not notice they were interrupted, but they would actually pay attention. Now if you interrupt, it's too easy for people to change the channel, go to a different website, fillet the magazine, and throw the thing out. And so now, to use your word, it's become engagement. And think about it, it's an absolutely opposite process. In the tripping someone as they walk by versus getting someone to say, hey, I'd like to know more about that. I'd like to be involved. I want to upload my pictures, or I want to talk to you about it. It's totally different.
It is, and really that's the geo-targeted approach to advertising in today's world is phenomenal. Because if you have a dog collar you want to promote, you're going to put it on Animal Planet, and you may put it on Animal Planet online. So that geo-targeting is really shifting everything, because you know exactly who your consumer is going to be, as opposed to broadcasting it on a main channel and hoping that that's your audience. So that has also been very, very targeted, very focused.
TV used to be purchased. You would put your ads next to a good show because the next show would be watched, simply because people wouldn't get up from the couch to go change the channel. Now, of course, can you imagine? People don't even watch what's on. They watch what else is on. How many of you think Scan is your favorite show? Just hold the button, right?
One example that I use about that fundamental shift, we own the largest advertiser in the world, right, is Anheuser-Busch. Spend on average about $500 million, I think, on television alone. You can probably correct me, I'm probably a little bit off there, but it's pretty staggering numbers. And for 10 years, they were the #1 ranked Super Bowl commercial. And I can guarantee you we all have an Anheuser-Busch commercial that we remember, from the talking frogs to the Clydesdales, the Dalmatians, you name it. It's a pretty iconic ad campaign that lasted for a decade as the #1 ranked Super Bowl commercial. 2 years ago, Doritos used a user content generated campaign called Crash the Super Bowl, and a $2,000 commercial was the #1 ad in the Super Bowl, created by quite literally a guy in his garage. So that is a fundamental shift in advertising for agencies, for creatives, for the way that we express those ideas, and the access to the tools via technology is allowing more people to become involved in these creative processes and to leverage that for brands.
I also think grassroots ideas have a lot more legs than just a traditional ad in a magazine or in television, perhaps. You know, when Crispin and Porter decided to put a Mini Cooper on top of another car and drive around, that gets press. You know, then that goes, somebody takes a picture of it and it goes to the internet. Then it becomes, you know, YouTube video and so forth. So that access to all this technology, you can take a very simple idea. Something we did recently for a bank is we decided to give free coffee at Versailles, which is a place here, it was right near their headquarters. So it was done around Thanksgiving, and the whole concept of pay it forward. So somebody would walk up and ask for their coffee, and right before they pay, they would say, you know what, it's on the bank, it's on IFB. It's not so much that it cost $1, it was just the fact that they were getting this free coffee, and now the bank somehow, and it was very economical, but it took off. You know, it had a grassroots approach. The next thing you know, it was online, and people were buzzing about it. The next thing you know, the guys from Ocean Bank were drinking coffee there. So I think that the ideas, which is really the base of what advertising truly is, at our core, I think what drives us, our passion, is ideas. And those ideas have many more avenues in order to be communicated in today's market than the past.
What other tactics do you see that we're still using from traditional media? Because it seems like we're moving towards just really fast. We're moving so fast. So what kind of things are we still using today from back then?
Budgets.
Budgets.
I think we're using all of them. I mean, the new technology usually does not push out the old, it just supplants it. So when television was invented, they said, oh, well, that's it for radio. Radio's finished. And in fact, radio morphed. It went from presenting dramas, they could sit around and stare at the radio, to doing news, to being hyper-local, to doing the things it does today, radio in your car and the like. And then television came out. Of course, when there was color printing in magazines, they said newspapers were finished. And now, of course, people are saying newspapers are finished, but that's not entirely true. There's plenty of newspapers that are profitable. And anyways, it's not about the paper, it's about the news. People want the information. How they digest it changes. But to her point, the concepts, the ideas don't change, and what people are looking for doesn't necessarily change. Movies didn't replace TV, TV didn't, and so on and so forth. So now you have all this new interactive technology, and what happens? People still want, what do you watch on Hulu? TV shows. It's another distribution channel, but you're still looking at the same thing. What is it called when you run an ad across the top of a website? A billboard. Why? A banner. Because it's the same thing. It's just in a new distribution form. Phones are the same. People don't care how the signal gets from this phone to this phone, whether it's twisted cord, whether it's a satellite phone, whether it's cellular, it doesn't matter. I just want to have the conversation.
Right.
So now that we have a lot of mobile marketing going on, how does how does the message change? Before we had very lengthy copy, and so how do you see that changing now? How is it today? The message itself.
Well, at the basics, you have to have your site drop ready, right? So there's been so many people that have tried to get the mobile, they want to jump on the bandwagon, but they don't have the site formatted to a phone. So that is a major deterrent. I think that's at the very basic. And then there's so many different variables and levels to how mobile marketing could be used. It could be a reminder for an appointment on a text message. It could be a digital banner, digital billboard on your phone. Now there's some that you can touch and it takes you right to a website. So it's constantly evolving. The most important part of it is getting people's access to be able to make it a touch point and communicate with them. But I mean, everybody's on their phone. I almost wanted to do a small documentary of the insane situations that people are always on the phone. I mean, it's crazy. So you're driving and people are like this. And then, there's someone crossing the street and they're going, I mean, it's constant, it's constant. I can't imagine a college classroom today. I mean, sorry, I know we're in one. But everybody must be, checking texts. It's crazy.
Usually they do that down here, you see, and I hope they're texting.
Maybe they're tweeting, it's even more strange as we go down that road. Mobile marketing, I mean, it's about creativity. I mean, it's just, to Bruce's point, these are just mediums. None of it can exist in a vacuum. If you don't have a good idea and you're sending me your ad campaign, it's still a bad campaign, and I'm not going to participate with it, which means you're going to lose that client because it didn't work. And it just comes down to the fundamentals of what good communication should be all about. We've got location-based services, which is going to be huge in the next 24 months. That's going to fundamentally change things again. And the iPad and the pad revolution and the app revolution, cover to wired magazine as the internet is dead. These are interesting times that we're living in, and you've just got to keep making sure that the idea that you're bringing to that end consumer is a good idea. Because creativity, you can't buy that. You can't use a computer to become creative. You can't put another tool in your hand. Whether it's a pencil that you're using to sketch it, or you're using the next greatest and most expensive Apple computer, it doesn't really matter, because it just comes down to the core of a good idea.
Speaking of good ideas, what's your favorite campaign? Think back.
My favorite campaign ever?
Ever.
I really like this billboard, and it's very simple, because I like simple copy myself. Years ago, I was probably a teenager, but I would see it on US 1, it would say, Ingle L's, Ingle L's. The holidays just aren't the same without JMB. And I thought that was very clever, it was very simple. I wasn't sure, I don't think JMB was as popular at the time here, and they were introducing it to the market. I love that. Just that billboard always resonates with me. Not to mention all the Target ads, which I think are phenomenal.
Anyone else want to share their favorite campaigns? Favorite ads?
I cry on Budweiser Christmas commercials.
Bruce wrote one up, and that's the Think Small from Volkswagen. It's a fantastic campaign. And my new personal favorite is Old Spice. Taking that level of engagement and taking a campaign from just broadcast and using it to the depth and the level that they did is just fantastic. And I just wanted Emmy. So.
There was a print ad in England that showed a white English policeman with his stick out, running. And in front of him was a black guy, but in plain clothes, running. And then you could just see someone kind of running off the page at the other end. It was the double trucks. And the headline said, is this an example of I forget the exact words, but is this an example of white policemen beating up defenseless black defendants? Is it an example of those damn blacks, I think it said, getting away with murder again? Or is it an example of your prejudice? And then when you read the copy, they were both policemen, a uniformed cop and an undercover cop at Florida. But it was fascinating, because as you read each line, first you looked at it and you picked whatever you thought it was, right? And then as you read the first line of copy, you either went, yeah, that's it, or no, that's not it. And then you read the second line of copy, and it changed your opinion again. And then you read the third line of copy, it changed your opinion a third time. And then when you read the body copy, you found out you were completely wrong. And it was just mind-boggling the way they just juggled, or at least with me, when I saw the ad. I loved it.